That just shot me full of energy. How are we doing today? Okay, that was like a 4 on the scale. We're getting there. And that scale goes to 100, by the way. All right. Well, I am Reverend Shad Groveland. I am the Executive Director of Unity Worldwide Ministries, which is headquartered at Unity Village. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do in this talk and sort of a state of what's going on in Unity. So I'm going to talk about our movement. And every movement or cause has a moment in time where they ask, where do we go from here? They've done some things, they've gone some places, and now they ask, where do we go from here? And oftentimes in situations like this, there is a person that rises to the top, sort of an influential figure that moves the cause forward, has an idea or an inspiration or a direction and takes them there. Someone who creates a breakthrough and takes it really to the next level for that movement. In a fantastical sense, this someone is often the chosen one when we see our stories and our movies that go by and we kind of see these figures. Does everyone recognize everybody up there? Probably not all of them. We've got Mila Jovovich on the left there from, well, that doesn't really matter. But we got Neo from The Matrix, and we've got Harry Potter, we've got Luke Skywalker, and of course Jesus in the middle. Now you might be judging the body there, but we don't know what his physique was like, so just accept it. He might have looked like that. All right, but these chosen ones carry a lot of weight in certain movements and are game changers for the cause and helping it move forward. And of course, in modern days, we do have modern chosen ones. You might recognize these figures, but you may not recognize the figure on the top right, or you might. This is Reverend Dr. Ruth Mosley, who created the Unity Urban Ministerial School, the school that I was actually ordained through, and also one of those game changers, those chosen ones who, in our movement, saw something and did something about it and shifted us in a new direction. So she is one of those special chosen ones, but we have many of those chosen ones up there that really changed the course for a movement. But the difference between the set of characters in the first slide and the second slide is really that the first ones were prophesied. They were chosen before they were born to do the work they were to do. And the ones on the right and the other slide recognized something needed to be changed, and they chose themselves to do something about it. Now in our Unity movement today, we are at one of those points in time where we are asking the question, where do we go from here? We've had a fruitful journey thus far. We've had some great success, but recently we've hit what you might call a lull or a slow or a stall or something in our path. And this isn't specific just to Unity. We're seeing this across all faiths, all religions across the planet, almost across the board. Some are still rising, but across the board we're seeing basically either a lull or a drop. But since I'm the executive director of Unity Worldwide Ministries, I'm going to talk about Unity and not to the other faiths that are out there. And I'm going to speak to our situation today, or rather our opportunity today. Now, let me start by asking you this. Have you ever felt out of place in this world as it is today? Anyone? Perhaps like you might be from another planet and you're watching this planet go insane. Actually, the image on the left is more startling to me than the one on the right, but that's just me. Well, if you have or you do feel that way, I want to share this next quote with you. When you are born in a world you don't fit in, it's because you are born to help create a new one. Did you know you are one of the chosen ones? Not that you have been chosen by some outside source to fix some problems for it, but rather that you have recognized that there is something going on and that you might be the one to fix it. That is actually how Spirit works. It doesn't choose you. It reveals choices to you and gives you the opportunity to choose yourself to do something about it. So I told you I would speak about Unity today, which is what I'm going to do because that is sort of my area of expertise. But first I need to let you know a little history on why Unity. Why is Unity so important? Every issue we face as a human family is an issue rooted in human consciousness. There is not an issue on this planet today that does not have its roots in the shortcomings and flawed thinking of human consciousness. And in Unity, we are in the business of fixing flawed thinking and lifting up shortcomings in human consciousness. Do you see why Unity is important? So in essence, what we teach and do here in Unity fixes the root cause of every single issue or problem that we face on the planet today. That is why when I get overwhelmed hearing about all the issues and stuff that's happening in the world today, I bring myself back to the fact that I'm part of the movement that is here to fix them. I'm part of something that has the root solution to every single thing I see going on the planet. Now, I need to clarify a little bit about Unity, though. Unity is not always perfect in its execution and in how it shows up in the world. Our imperfect past is evidence of that. And if you know the story of Reverend Dr. Ruth Mosley, you'll know that she faced significant racism in her efforts to be ordained in Unity and was forced off the grounds many times because of the color of her skin. So we do not have a perfect past in showing up as our highest and best. But when Unity stays rooted in its principles, and when it practices what it teaches, and it works as a united front, Unity is, in fact, the solution. So that being said, the question yet again is, where do we go from here? In many ways, we need to make sure Unity is the best it absolutely can be, because the world needs unity. And if we are showing up as less than our potential, we are selling the world short on the solution that it is looking for. So let me share a bit more of our history. In the early days of Unity, there were no churches or ministries. It was just a collection of individuals studying Unity ideas as put forth by our Unity co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. The Fillmores started sharing these ideas in small groups, and then they actually started publishing pamphlets and magazines that went out around the entire world. Gradually around the world, other small groups of individuals started gathering to study these ideas, and these groups grew and started to become established, and ministries and churches evolved out of these groups in these different pockets around the world. Now, unlike other denominations you might be familiar with, there wasn't a formalized process in Unity for planting these early churches. They just grew out of these gatherings of like-minded individuals doing small group work together. I share that to point out a possible ripple that process created through Unity time. Because these groups emerged from their own individual effort, they were independent of any centralized organizational effort. Initially, it was a beautiful organic process that unfolded through spirit, simply held together by the shared beliefs and ideas of Unity, as shared from our founders, the Fillmores. But if you've ever been part of a group or a business or a corporation that rapidly grows, at some point that initial organic approach needs a system to support it. Excuse me. It needs a direction, it needs a focus, some sort of glue that holds it all together. Otherwise, you wind up trying to herd cats, and the cats will always win. So in 1966, Unity Worldwide Ministries was created initially under the name the Association of Unity Churches Incorporated. But here is the issue it faced from that point forward. The ministries had spent so long celebrating their independence that there was this resistance to organization or a unified effort at that point. And in fact, much of that remains true today. That ripple of independence that created the ministries and began as a tool for innovation and creativity gradually morphed into a reason for isolation and resistance to organization and change. This independence ripple can affect the ministry leadership, the individuals in the ministries, and even Unity Worldwide Ministries itself. So I want to give you an example of how this plays out. Eventually a frog will jump out of my throat. I just want to warn the people in the front row. Don't kiss it. That's going to slowly hit you later on. So here's an example. In ministry, there is something called the glass ceiling. There's the glass ceiling concept in almost anything, but we have one actually in ministry, which is a known issue that happens when a ministry reaches around 100 congregants. A single minister with roughly 100 congregants will not grow beyond that size unless that minister has a system or additional leadership to help. Fundamentally, a single minister cannot meet the needs of those 100 people in a ministry, all the various needs that that ministry would require when it gets to that size. And if that minister doesn't have the means or the wherewithal or the training or the ability to get help, they will have created that glass ceiling that keeps that ministry from growing. And if you've ever traveled the United States and visited our ministries, many of them sit between 50, 80, 100 people, right below that glass ceiling, and many of them had hit that glass ceiling many times. And I should know because I myself was smacking up against that glass ceiling over and over and over again at my ministry in Unity of Las Vegas, Nevada. So now imagine instead of a ministry, you have Unity Worldwide Ministries. And instead of congregants, you have the ministries themselves growing and expanding. At about 100 ministries, we needed a system, a centralized organizational effort to help this movement grow and stay on course. Now, as we grew to 600 ministries worldwide, which we have today, Unity Worldwide Ministries would hire more staff to try to compensate and keep up. But the organized system itself was still lacking. That seed of independence was still resisting a centralized and organized effort, leading to ministries doing ministry however they saw fit at that point in time. Well, that might work for an individual ministry to be able to do whatever they feel they need to do to meet the needs of that congregation. But it doesn't really work for a collection of ministries or a whole movement across the planet. Individuality can be great, but a group of individuals building a skyscraper without a unified plan is not a building I want to go into. Do you agree? Okay. I've lived in some of those buildings in the apartments I've had throughout my life, and you don't want to be in those buildings. Some of you might as well. So we look at a unified plan, and after all, the root of the word unified is unity. If we're all heading in different directions, how do we remain unified? And let me remind you why this matters. The world needs unity because we have the solution. But the world can't find unity if it doesn't have a unified voice or a unified direction it is heading in. And this ripple of independence has also led to another setback worth noting, which will require a little bit more history. Does everyone like history? I hope we like history. Looks like 3 of us like history, so the rest of you, I'm sorry. You're just along for the ride. This train's already left the station. So I was born in 1976, and from my perspective, I would say that I grew up in Unity's heyday. As a child in Unity, our ministry was packed and always expanding. There was energy and there was vitality, a constantly growing and expanding experience with a youth department so vital that it took over half of our building, and we had a very large building at that time, and still actually do in Boulder, Colorado. Now, when we would, as youth, go to Unity Village for our youth camp in the summer, there were 400 to 500 kids all over Unity Village running around having an amazing time. But something happened in Unity. That same youth camp today has about 40 or 50 children in attendance. Now, maybe this will help us understand what happened. Iron rusts from disuse. Stagnant water loses purity, and in cold weather becomes frozen. even so does an action sap the vigors of the mind, said Leonardo da Vinci. You see, things need to move. They need to flow, they need to grow, they need to evolve, they need to expand, they need to regenerate over time, or they become stagnant. If they sit still for too long, the flow begins to go around them. It begins to push through them, and eventually it could dissolve them entirely, like we see with rust, is dissolving that metal. Like we see with water, will dissolve a rock that is in its way. Now let me share with you a very real personal story of mine of what I am talking about. When I graduated the Youth of Unity program and I graduated high school, I went off into the world and I did my first year of college at the College of Santa Fe in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I wanted to be a good Unity kid. I was now a young man. So I gathered up some of my fellow college students I had met, and I sought out the Unity in Santa Fe. And I dragged them with me on a Sunday morning, those that were willing to come check it out. Now, I had been raised in a Unity church, which you probably can all understand because this is a massive Unity church. I don't know if you knew that. This is a massive Unity church. I'm going to say that again. Massive Unity church. So I grew up in a massive Unity church as well. And I went to the Unity of Santa Fe, and it was a very, very small Unity church, which was a shock to me. I just sort of assumed we were all that big. A very small Unity church with a very older congregation and a very older feel to the overall experience. And the moment we walked into the door, it was one of those, can we turn around quick enough to get out before anyone sees us moments? And we could not, because the ushers were so excited to see young people come through the door, they almost tackled us and handcuffed us to the pews, the very old pews. And we went through the service, and it was very uncomfortable. It did not feel like it fit us whatsoever, and we, in fact, never went back. And I was sort of apologizing to them afterwards for dragging them to this experience. Now, there are 2 points worth noting here. Had the congregation done the work of making changes to stay more modern and relevant, when my friends and I arrived, it might have felt more comfortable to us. Also, the second point, had I taken more ownership of my responsibility in Unity, such as I do today, I would have stuck around to help them make those changes. So what we have here is 2 very big issues to deal with as I see it. 1, a perspective that thinks things should be the way I like them. And 2, a lack of ownership to help create something that works for all. Think about the missed opportunity there was in Santa Fe. At that time, I don't think I'm all that amazing, but I was probably exactly what that ministry needed to help grow a youth department and to help grow the entire church itself. To update the overall experience to be more welcoming to a larger demographic. But that was not where my head was at the time. And concurrently, that is not where theirs was either, at least in action. I believe they thought they wanted to be more relevant and hip and with the times, but their action did not match that. They probably saw the potential in us young people coming through that door, but they themselves had not done the work to create an environment ready for that potential. If they had at least done enough work that we felt comfortable enough to come one more Sunday, they might have engaged us enough to help them turn that church around. Now, I'd like to address a misnomer or stereotype that is out there, which I believe has created or at least facilitated some of our issues that we see in Unity and the world today, these missed opportunities. This is Jane Goodall saying, young people, when informed and empowered, when they realize that what they do truly makes a difference, can indeed change the world. Now, I'm not going to say that Jane is wrong. After all, she has far more accolades than I do. But that doesn't mean I can't disagree with her, at least part of what she is saying. There is this notion that young people or the youth are what is going to save us, or are supposed to be the ones that fix our collective problems. But think about how unfair that is. To put the burden of fixing problems we created on the backs of the next generations. Or to use reverse psychology to excite the youth into doing the work to fix the problems we don't want to fix ourselves. Yes, the youth have great power to effectuate change, and that should be celebrated. But the real issue that should be getting our attention is that we are dumping the necessity for change on them. That's kind of ridiculous, which I think is so brilliantly pointed out by climate activist Greta Thunberg in her 2019 address to the United Nations Climate Action Summit. Here's what she said, this young woman. "This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams, my childhood with your empty words. And yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?" It is a grave injustice and, frankly, a disgusting flaw in human consciousness that creates problems that the next generation has to fix. So let me get back to why you and I in Unity are the chosen ones. A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in, which is an old Greek proverb. Would we, the people of Unity today, be willing to plant the trees that will create a thriving movement for the Unity people of tomorrow? I would imagine all of us would probably answer yes, depending on what it would require of me. You see, Greta Thunberg was addressing leaders at the UN, none of whom want to create an unhealthy planet, but all of whom are victims of exactly what the rest of us are, which is our programming that tells us to put our own needs over the needs of others, which shows up in ministry by some of us wanting the lights a certain way, the music a certain way, the talks to be a certain way, the seating to be a certain way, the building to be a certain way, the minister to be a certain way. Ultimately, we want Unity our way. It should be tailored for me. And all across our movement, I can attest to the fact that many of our over 600 churches around the world are in a state of tension between what the current congregation wants and what the future of Unity is calling them towards. And I really think that is the difference between the Unity I grew up in and much of the Unity we have today. Back then, Unity was new to most of us, and we were excited about growing in Unity and growing with Unity as it changed and evolved. But at some point, like tends to happen with anything you have, we got comfortable with Unity the way it was, and less excited about the Unity we were helping to create. And that put a logjam in the flow. And I told you about Unity of Santa Fe because I was part of that logjam. I am taking responsibility. I could have helped turn around a church, and I was part of that logjam in my lack of ownership to help it grow and change. So as much as our society likes to champion the idea that our youth will be the agents of change, so many times our youth hit the glass ceiling of our immobilized generations ahead of them. They run into us and our indifference to the issues. So again, I told you that you are the chosen ones. We are the chosen ones. We make it possible for the next generation to thrive. Luke Skywalker would have gone nowhere without the work of the Resistance and Obi-Wan Kenobi before him. They don't talk a lot about that, though. Neo in the Matrix, he wouldn't have conquered the Matrix unless there was the work of Morpheus and the Resistance in Zion before he arrived. And how many prophets of the Old Testament we're preparing the world for the coming ministry of Jesus. When we look at Luke and Neo and Jesus and the heroes of these stories, they are really just playing the last hole in an 18-hole golf game. The true chosen ones, the true heroes of the stories, are the ones who set them up for success in the first 17 holes of that game. Now let me close out by sharing with you something that has blown my Unity perspective wide open in the last few weeks. I recently met with our Unity Worldwide Ministries International Advisory Council. And in this particular meeting, it was primarily representatives from the ministries we have in Africa. Let that soak into your mind for a second. Our brothers and sisters sitting in ministry in Africa right now, today. They shared with me that they don't have the resources to get a website up and going, and how crucial a website is these days to be found. They also shared that the students in our Unity International Ministerial Schools can't afford the books or the tuition, but still sacrifice much of their own livelihood to try and pay for them because they are so dedicated to this movement. Overall, I heard them share how long Unity has been focused on the concerns of the ministries in the United States and largely ignoring other countries like Africa, where they said the youth are so hungry for Unity message. They're not trying to get the youth are trying to get in, and they don't have a place to go. And coincidentally, talk about how the universe works. I had two gentlemen from Africa, unrelated to this group, unrelated to each other, unrelated to anything else going on, reach out to me personally on my Facebook page this month, inquiring about how they can get Unity in their village or town. Towns where we don't even have a Unity presence in their entire country yet. I'm going to read to you what one of them wrote to me after I inquired back in the messaging app to say, can you tell me a little bit more about what you have going on in the group of people that are gathering? This is what he said. Greetings, Reverend Groverland. I hope you are well and blessed. Thank you very much for your questions, and I'll try to respond to all of them. We are about 38 believers, but it can happen that we meet in the number of 65 or 70 persons when we have visitors who come to worship together with us here at Bujumbura. I have another group of 19 persons in another province, Ngazi province, which I sometimes go there and assist them as I can. Yes, we gather regularly every week. We're gathering together. I'll try to take pictures and send them to you. We discovered Unity on the internet. I was reading on the internet about your organization. We have fasting prayers. We pray for those who are ill. We have choir songs, Bible study time, etc. We don't have Unity books, except that we read about your beliefs online. Please, if you can send us Unity books, it will be our blessing. We wish affiliation with your ministry. We wish that you can help us to grow spiritually by giving us some teachings which can help us. We wish that we can be Unity Burundi as you have Unity in other countries. We would like to be your children in faith. We want to belong to your ministry. For us, we were meeting at my home, but we are looking at how we can start meeting in a meeting room. Our government doesn't allow many people to meet and pray at home like a ministry or church. We found a room. We hope next we will meet in there. The wish of our group is to be like a ministry. That is why I told you we want to be a part of your ministry. Please keep us in your prayers as Tanganyika Lake is destroying houses and goods of people here at Bujumbura. We have believers also who lost their homes. We are in a difficult situation. You can check on the internet about Tanganyika flood here at Bujumbura. That's a picture of what's going on as they're trying to assemble a Unity in their village. Look at what we're standing in right now. And there's a collection of people there trying to create a Unity ministry. And it's not even on our radar. It doesn't even exist to us. We're worried about the lights and the seats, and is the temperature right, and the parking, is that good enough? Does the music quite what I wanted? Did the minister really that engaging what happened? And this is going on. And this is how unity began. People hearing about the message and coming together and saying, let's make something of this. This is powerful. Now, oftentimes when we hear something like this and we see these pictures, we are inspired to give and try to help, which we definitely should. But I want to help you understand the funding model for our movement. Unity Worldwide Ministries serves and supports the Unity ministries and leaders around the world as best it can. Those ministries and leaders donate back to us to support the work we do. That is how we are funded. So for Unity Worldwide Ministries to thrive and better support the ministries around the world, we actually need the ministries themselves to thrive in order to be able to better support us in that process. We are the glue that is helping to hold us all together in this movement, a unified structure that allows the ministries to walk hand in hand toward our collective calling that began with the Fillmores. And for you sitting here as a chosen one, we need you to help this ministry thrive with your energetic, creative, and financial support. So where do we go from here? I believe the next heyday of unity is just around the corner, but it will not look like our heydays of the past. It will call upon each of you as the chosen ones sitting here today to be dedicated and committed to your ministry in an effort of creating an experience that meets the diverse needs of our modern world. When you do this, you will become the answer that everyone is looking for. And by working with us at Unity Worldwide Ministries, we will help them find you because we know that you will have the answer. And that is the truth as I experience it. Thank you. We're going to have a time for meditation now.